Good morning. You listen to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Dan Sullivan, who's the Director of International Logistics for Mohawk Home. Dan, how you doing today?
Just fine, thank you.
I wanted to talk to you about this decision to build an inland terminal in Eton, Georgia. But before we get to that, a little background on you. As I said, you're with Mohawk Home. Most people know that's the division at Mohawk that's focused on rugs. And you've been at Mohawk at 13 years. And prior to that, you were at Brown and Williamson. And you are a classically trained logistics person. You have a degree from UTK and also from Florida Tech in logistics, right?
Well, that is correct.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is this was basically your idea. It sounds like back in 2005, you came up with this idea. Tell us how you came up with it.
Well, I'm used to strategic planning, and I was reading a lot of articles about the anticipated shortage of truck drivers in the future, and this was a concern. So I pitched the idea back in 2005 by communicating with Norfolk Southern Railroad and CSX Railroad. The idea was to address this predicted shortfall of truck drivers. They're used today to move ocean containers to and from the seaports. I wrote a concept paper, and I used it to promote the idea to anyone that would listen. In addition to the correspondence with the railroads, I communicated with supply chain professionals at various universities and also solicited assistance from the Georgia Logistics Innovation Center. And then I corresponded with the U.S. Department of Transportation and reached out to the Georgia Ports Authority. Throughout the years, I continued to lobby for an intermodal rail terminal in northwest Georgia, and it was when GPA decided this project could improve the intermodal network in Georgia and to facilitate their business at the Savannah's Garden City Marine Terminal. That progress started. They provided the leadership and project management. The work involved doing market surveys, land surveys, discussions with the railroads, and, of course, the difficult task of finding such a large sum to fund the construction project. The funding appeared to be the final hurdle, and it also was the one that caused the greatest delay. Throughout the process, I continued to consult closely with the project manager, John Trent, who was a senior director at the Strategic Operations for GPA. And then I was glad to hear earlier this year that the intermodal terminal would become a reality. The exact location, which will be in Eton, was not really disclosed until it was announced by the governor, Nathan Deal, on 28 July.
Now, what is the GPA? What's that stand for?
Georgia Ports Authority.
And they're the ones that will actually run this facility?
That is correct. It's under their auspices as an outport, and, of course, the railroad activity will be managed by CSX Railroad.
Okay. Will there be a connection to both CSX and Norfolk Southern, or just CSX?
Just CSX.
Okay. Now, who spends the $24 million?
That money comes from a variety of sources: Georgia Ports Authority, the railroad, and the state.
Okay. And so, as you said earlier, the motivation behind it was you saw a shortcoming of truck drivers. Basically, when this is all said and done, this is going to reduce the amount of trucks that are going back and forth between Savannah and northwest Georgia, right?
Well, it will reduce the number of trucks, but it was the shortage of truck drivers that we're going to experience in the future that necessitated this alternate mode of transportation.
All right, so when this thing is completed, which is, another couple more years, right?
It'll take about 2 years.
Will it mostly just be offshore containers that are put from ships onto trains and then taken from trains and put onto rubber tires at this facility?
Well, yes, basically it'll allow us to throughput the containers from the seaport in Savannah and have them moved by train up here to northwest Georgia, and it will also be used for exports. And then after they get up to this northwest Georgia area, then they will move by truck to the final destination, which will serve the whole Appalachian region.
And is there a cost savings for doing it this way?
Should be a cost savings, but that remains to be seen.
So here you work for Mohawk Home. It's a great idea. You're also a trained logistics person. What do you think the benefit is to the people in the flooring business?
Well, for us, it'll allow us to continue to bring in our goods, and also it'll allow us to export our goods. It gives us an alternative mode of transportation, so we're not totally reliant on just trucks. It's always nice to have options.
Yeah. And in this day and age, one of the things we see is that the highways seem to be more and more crowded. So don't you think that's a big benefit to reduce the load on the highway system?
Well, those are benefits to everyone, not just to Mohawk. But, yes, there's some positive environmental impact by switching from truck to rail. There's also the reduction of trucks on the highways that go through the Atlanta area that'll ease congestion on the roads. So there's a lot of benefits to everyone.
Well, congratulations on coming up with this idea, Dan. Do you personally get anything for it other than the satisfaction of having come up with the idea?
It's just my profession. It's what I do.
All right, well, it's great to talk to you. I thought it'd be neat to point out that one of our own in the flooring business has improved the logistics systems in the state of Georgia. Again, been talking to Dan Sullivan, who is the Director of International Logistics for Mohawk Home, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.